everyone, and welcome back to my channel. You just saw some clips of the dress that we are making in this sewing class, and I got my inspiration from a play suit that I saw on Josie from Fashion-Stylist here on YouTube. You know that I like her style very much, and it is a play suit that she got from Farfetched. And the regular viewers know that I'm not really a fan of play suits or jumpsuits, so I'm gonna make it a dress. But if you like to make it a play suit, you can certainly just use the basic pattern for the trousers that I will link down below and switch the skirt part for the trousers part, and then you can make a play suit. But I will make it a dress. And I hope that you like that. If you like my videos, please consider subscribing. If you don't already, thank you so much. And I'll show you now what the inspiration was for making this dress. And this is my inspiration. In the left upper corner you see Josie, and the other three pictures are screenshots from the website she got it from. It is from the site from Farfetched, and I believe it is a Zimmerman play suit. As I said, I make a dress out of it because I'm not a fan of the playsuit style. But it has this button row in the front on the bodice, and now that I'm watching, I was planning to make an invisible zipper in the mid back, but you can also do the button roll in the front and then going on into the skirt too. Then you don't have to make a zipper, but I think I will just make the zipper because I like that more than a longer button row in the front. It has this open back. You can make it, of course, as low or as high as you like. We have pleats in the front of the skirt because I'm gonna make a skirt, and you can do that in the back too, but I will just make pleats in the back, and then the skirt going out a little bit in a line, but not too much. And of course it has a collar that will hold the bodice up, and that gives a very nice effect with these open shoulders like this. And I think the one that Josie is wearing is a bit too big on her, because I don't really like it when the sides where they go from your neck in the front going under your arms. I think that should be really nicely fitted and not standing open, because then you can also look in from the side, and I don't like it. I think you should really make nice darts here at the armhole part so that it is really nicely following your body there, going underneath your arm. So we make darts, or more we make a princess seam going from the armhole down to the waistline. So this is my inspiration, and as I said, if you like to make it a play suit, you can just add, instead of the basic pattern of the skirt, you can add the basic pattern of the trousers and put that underneath your bodice, and then you have the play suit like this. But I will go for a dress part. And yes, we make insert pockets in the side seams. This is the drawing of what we're going to make. We have these open shoulders here, princess seams in the front, buttons in the mid front, a collar in the neckline. Then we have our skirt with pockets, insert pockets, pleats here in the front, and a skirt that is going out a little bit. You can make it, of course, as wide as you like. If you want to make it as play suit, just instead of the skirt part, use the trousers basic pattern that I also have on my channel. I will link them all in the description box below. And then for the back, we have here an invisible zipper in the mid back seam. We have two darts on the sides or on the back part. Also the skirt going out a bit, as much as you like. Then we have the back part of the bodice that is just a small rounded out piece, and you can make it as high or as low as you like. And then the only thing you see in the back is the back of the collar, and that means that this whole part is open at the back, and I think that's a very nice look for summer. So that's how we are going to make it. And as my fabric, I have this beautiful viscose that almost feels silky. And it's a very nice and flowy fabric. Of course, you can also use a cotton or a linen. The one for my inspiration is a linen dress. I think it's a linen blend. I don't think it's 100% linen. But you can use any fabric that is more soft, like this one, or also a more stiff one, because it doesn't have really much flow. So you can take whatever fabric that you like. So we're gonna need a lot of basic patterns. You will need the basic pattern for the top, the basic pattern for a collar, and a basic pattern for a skirt, or if you want to make it a play suit, you will need the basic pattern for trousers. But we're gonna start with the bodice part, so the top part. What you do is you trace your basic pattern on a new piece of paper and leave here at the side 1.5, or I think I made 2 centimeters. Let me measure. Yes, I did 2 centimeters left. And then you trace your front neck hole, your shoulder seam, your armhole, and your side seam, and you stop where the waist is. Then you take the basic pattern away. You have this. Oh, and you mark, of course, your apex. And if you already drawn your dart here, you draw that too. Then you have something like this. You add here the 2 centimeters, that is for the bottom row in the mid front. We're gonna add a dart here and a dart here, but we make a princess seam out of it. So what you do in the basic pattern that I made, it's already a few years ago that I made it, so I will make a new basic pattern in I think 2 or 3 weeks. I will upload it then, and then I will explain more in depth how you make these darts. But for now we just do it quick. If you don't understand it now, just wait a few weeks and you will get the whole in-depth making of the new basic pattern, also with darts. But what you do is you mark your apex already, and from that you go to your armhole and you make a dart from around 1.5 to 2 centimeters. What you can do is cut your pattern out, hold it to your body or to your mannequin if you have it, and it has a really pretty same size or shape more that you have. Sorry. Then you can just put this to your body and fold it in here so that you can see how much you need to take in here to get it nicely flat to your body. That's the nicest way to make a dart to your own sizing. Usually it will be around 1.5 or 2 centimeters, but it's possible that you need more or less. Also for this dart, you can also just cut it out, then take it in here, see how much you need to get this flat to your body, and just point it out towards your apex. Always take it to your apex, both darts. So this one is also 2 centimeters, and because you take it in here, you need to add these 2 centimeters to your basic pattern. The side seam of your normal basic pattern was this one, but because you need more, because you take it in here, you add 2 centimeters and you make a new side seam here. Then you have this. Then what you do when you cut it out, you can make 2 darts, but it's more nice to make just 1 princess seam, because that is almost the same. And what you do is you cut it out here around the upper seam of your dart, and then make it just in one line to here, the most outer or inner part of your bottom dart. And you do the same for the other seam. You also connect these two, but because this is really a pointy one that looks a bit strange, so you round it off and you cut it like this, and then you have this line going all the way down, and then you have your princess seam. So it's very simple to do. When you're not sure, just hold it to your body, cinch it in on the sides and see how it is most nice to have it nicely fitted to your body. But you just connect these 2 lines with each other, cut them out, so this in between part just goes away. That's the part that's normally folded in when you make a dart. So it's very simple to do. Then what we need to do is we have, do I have my drawing here? Yes. We have to make this line here that's going from the top of your shoulder to under your armhole. And what you can do is you can just connect the top of your shoulder seam to your armhole, and you can make it just a straight line, and then you cut that off like that, and then you have this seam here. That is for your whole front part of your bodice. Then what I did is I took my basic pattern and I mirrored it to the other side of my paper. so that I could connect them here. So this is the back part of this pattern, so just flip it over. I marked my side seam, I marked my mid back, I marked my waistline, and then what you do is you can connect where your front bodice ends. You can make a curved line going to your mid back, and you can make it as high or as low as you want. I want it just a little bit medium. I don't want it too low. I also don't want it too high because my body is already very short. So just see how low or how high you want it to be. If you're not sure, make it higher. You can always make it lower. You cannot make it higher. So just be safe and take it till there. Or if you think, well, this is okay, then you do it like this. Your side seam is just your basic side seam. Your mid back is also just your normal mid back. And then you have your front bodice and your back bodice, because this is not more than just this part here, or half of this part, of course. So that's for the top of the dress. Then for the skirt part, take your basic pattern for the skirt and put that on another piece of paper. Mark again your mid front line, and I will put mine just on the fold because I don't want that button row to go further down. But if you want to open it up here and not have a zipper in the back, then you must add some extra here for the overlap for the bottom row. But I just traced my mid front. And then what I did is I marked where the mid is of my dart that I'm not going to use. So I marked it here, and I put a line on my new piece of paper going from that point down all the way down. And then I marked another line 5 centimeters from that for the pleats that I want. So I don't want this dart, but I want a pleat. So it will be folding over like this, or to the other side, whatever you like. You can also pleat it to the front. And then again I laid my basic pattern onto my new line, again with the middle of my dart onto that new line. And then I traced my new side seam. And what I did on my, because I don't have this dart here, I will use my former line of my side seam. I have that already on my basic pattern because sometimes I don't use that dart for my new pattern, and then I have less because this part of the dart normally you would stake in, but if you don't have that dart, you don't take in those 2 centimeters, so you have to take that off from the side seam, and I already had that drawn on my basic pattern. So what I did is I extended my side seam from this line here on top, and then going a bit out so that here on my hemline it is a bit wider than my basic pattern. I hope you can see that. So it looks like this with that new side seam. And then what I also did is not really wide the skirt, but I took it up a little bit here at the side seam, because otherwise this hemline will be too long, or this side seam will be too long, and it will hang down on the hem, and that's not nice. So this will be your new front pattern with the pleat. Then for the back it will be almost the same. You can draw a new one, but I won't do. I will just use one dart in the back. That means that I won't use this dart, so I'll have to take off these 2 centimeters for my side seam again, same as in the front pattern. When you use both darts, then you don't have to do it. But what I will do is I will just match it up with my front pattern, take off that 2 centimeters here from my side seam, and then do it like this. You can see that here is where my pattern used to end. I will take 2 centimeters of my basic pattern and then use that new line here as the side seam for my back pattern. And of course for the back pattern use cut enough seam allowance on, because you have to make here in your invisible zipper. So make sure you cut enough, not just half a centimeter or 1 centimeter seam allowance, because that will not be enough to make a nice invisible zipper in here. So that will be for your skirt part. If you want to, oh, I have to do something else. But if you want to make a pants pattern, so make a play suit, then you just use your basic pattern for the trousers that I always also link down below how to do that. Just make sure that the width of your top part of your trousers is the same as the width of your bodice, and of course that will be important because otherwise it won't match. And what I forgot is we're gonna make pockets, and I don't have them on my pattern here. I have a special tutorial on how to make inseam pockets, so if you're not familiar with that, you can watch that. I will also link it down below. But what you do is you measure how low you want your insert to be, mark that on your pattern, and then make an angled line like that, and you cut that off from your basic front pattern, and then you cut another piece for your pocket to put underneath. And you can see that in the tutorial of the insert pocket how to do that. I will just make the pattern, you will see it later on when I cut it out. But if you don't know how to draw that back pattern, then you can watch that. And when you've cut it out, it should look something like this. Your mid part of your bodice, the side part of your front bodice, and the back part of your bodice. And so this is now the princess seam that were those two darts, and these are your side seams that are connecting. Then for the collar, you just need the two parts of your basic collar, and the only thing you have to do is check whether your stand of your collar is still fitting the top of your bodice, because sometimes you add more for your front closure, sometimes less, and this stand should match exactly the opening of your neck hole, plus of course the back part. You don't have a back part now, but you can measure out if that will be enough. And this is your basic collar. If you want it smaller or wider, you can now just add or take something off, but I will just use my basic collar. Then for the skirt part, take your basic pattern for the skirt and put that on another piece of paper. Mark again your mid front line, and I will put mine just on the fold because I don't want that button row to go further down. But if you want to open it up here and not have a zipper in the back, then you must add some extra here for the overlap for the bottom row. But I just traced my mid front. And then what I did is I marked where the mid is of my dart that I'm not going to use. So I marked it here, and I put a line on my new piece of paper going from that point down all the way down. And then I marked another line 5 centimeters from that for the pleats that I want. So I don't want this dart, but I want a pleat, so it will be folding over like this, or to the other side, whatever you like. You can also pleat it to the front. And then again I laid my basic pattern onto my new line, again with the middle of my dart onto that new line. And then I traced my new side seam. And what I did on my, because I don't have this dart here, I will use my former line of my side seam. I have that already on my basic pattern because sometimes I don't use that dart for my new pattern, and then I have less because this part of the dart normally you would stake in, but if you don't have that dart, you don't take in those 2 centimeters, so you have to take that off from the side seam, and I already had that drawn on my basic pattern. So what I did is I extended my side seam from this line here on top, and then going a bit out so that here on my hemline it is a bit wider than my basic pattern. I hope you can see that. So it looks like this with that new side seam. And then what I also did is not really wide the skirt, but I took it up a little bit here at the side seam, because otherwise this hemline will be too long, or this side seam will be too long, and it will hang down on the hem, and that's not nice. So this will be your new front pattern with the pleat. Then for the back it will be almost the same. You can draw a new one, but I won't do. I will just use one dart in the back. That means that I won't use this dart, so I'll have to take off these 2 centimeters for my side seam, again same as in the front pattern. When you use both darts, then you don't have to do it. But what I will do is I will just match it up with my front pattern, take off that 2 centimeters here from my side seam, and then do it like this. You can see that here is where my pattern used to end. I will take 2 centimeters off my basic pattern and then use that new line here as the side seam for my back pattern. And of course, for the back pattern, use cut enough seam allowance on, because you have to make here in your invisible zipper. So make sure you cut enough, not just half a centimeter or 1 centimeter seam allowance, because that will not be enough to make a nice invisible zipper in here. So that will be for your skirt part. If you want to, oh, I have to do something else. But if you want to make a pants pattern, to make a play suit, then you just use your basic pattern for the trousers that I always also link down below how to do that. Just make sure that the width of your top part of your trousers is the same as the width of your bodice, and of course that will be important, because otherwise it won't match. And what I forgot is we're gonna make pockets, and I don't have them on my pattern here. I have a special tutorial on how to make inseam pockets, so if you're not familiar with that, you can watch that. I will also link it down below. But what you do is you measure how low you want your insert to be, mark that on your pattern, and then make an angled line like that, and you cut that off from your basic front pattern, and then you cut another piece for your pocket to put underneath. And you can see that in the tutorial of the insert pocket, how to do that. I will just make the pattern, you will see it later on when I cut it out. But if so, I marked where I have to cut off the part for my pocket, and I draw my pocket with the insert like this, and it will be underneath the front pattern, as you know. So I cut all my pieces, and there are rather some pieces that you need to iron some interfacing on. So I'm gonna walk you through all the pieces. This is my main bodice part with the side part, and on the main bodice you have to iron on interfacing here on that part that is the facing. So just this, you can see it I think, because it's just the same color as my fabric, but it's 2 centimeters of overlap that you have here on both parts of your fabric. You need to put some interfacing on. This one doesn't need any. I cut some interfacing, it's pretty wide, I'll make it smaller, to line here against the armhole. I also put some interfacing on to give it a little bit more grip, so that it's not too flimsy here around your arm, because that doesn't look nice. It must be nicely fitted here. And I didn't mark here my dart that you have here, or it's a seam now, because maybe when you have sewn them together you can just put one straight piece of fabric against it, but maybe you will need to put a little bit of a pleat here or a dart here to match the nice form of your armhole. Then we have our collar. Here also one puts interfacing on, and for the stand of your collar also we have 2 pieces, of course. One piece needs interfacing. Then for the back I was debating what to do, but I choose to cut them twice, so it's both parts are doubled. The left and the right one are 2 pieces, and I will treat them as one, so that I have a little bit more grip with the fabric, but not too much stiffness with the interfacing. And I think that will be very nice to have it nicely fit to your body, but not too stiff, because that doesn't, to my taste, it doesn't feel nice. So the back part, cut 4 pieces now, 2 for the left, 2 for the right. Then we have our skirt parts, and the front part, is this the front part? Yes, the front part is on the fold. So here is the fold. I cut off here the part for the pocket insert, And the pockets, I didn't want to have the pockets totally from this floral fabric, so I cut my bottom part of my pocket in a different sort of lining material, and then the top part of that, so it's just on top of that white one, of the floral part, and that is the part that you see when you put your hand in your pocket. And then the top part will be connected to the skirt part, so it will be on top of the bottom part of the pocket, and then this will be on top of it, connecting your upper pocket, and then here will be your insert. So I hope that's clear, but if you're not familiar with this, as I said, watch my tutorial on how to make this pocket. So you got all these pieces twice. Mark on your front pattern where you want your pleat to be, and then for the back skirt, mark your darts that you want here. And this is not on the fold because we're going to put our zipper in here, the blind zipper, and you don't have to put any interfacing on the skirt parts. If you make a pants part, you must will need some interfacing near the zipper or anything, but watch the tutorial on how to make pants, then you can see where you need to put some interfacing on. So quite some pieces to iron on, and then we're gonna assemble. So normally we always start with the shoulder seams, but we don't have any shoulder seams here. So we're going to start with the princess seams, and that means that we're going to attach the side pieces to the front pieces. And you will notice that the curves are different, so you have to align very perfectly all the parts that should be matching. And what I always do is first I start at the bottom, then I take my top seam where it ends and pin them together. And then what you should not do, and in my case it's not possible because I don't have stretchy fabric, but when you have stretchy fabric, make sure that you never ever stretch out your inner seam or your lower seam, because that will look very strange. So make sure that you just pin bit by bit the two seams together, and then you will see if you just take little pieces that you can match a seam that goes like this with a seam that goes like that. It's not a problem, you just must take little pieces, little steps, and then you can just make the curves matching. And you do that for the left and the right parts, and then we're gonna sew them together and immediately also finish them. So if you don't have a serger, use a straight stitch for the connecting part, and then use a zigzag stitch for the finishing part. So it looks always very strange when you have pinned it on, but you will see when you sew it and you open it up, make sure you press it very nicely. Press your seams to that side, because you cannot really open it up, it's difficult to do, but really press it very well. You can see now it looks very nice when you pin it like this. Now we're going to put our back parts to the front parts, and when you've done that you can try it on and see if your princess seams are good enough, because then you can still attach, change them. Maybe you need to make them more tight to get this nicely closed up. Maybe you want it more cinched in at the waist, so we're going to do that after we've put our back parts to it. What I will do, I will take just one part of my back parts to each front part, and then in the next step, when we have made our princess seams correctly, or what's the word? We perfected our darts, our princess seams, then we're gonna put all our facing here, and we're gonna connect that to the other part of our back. So then this will be our facing for the back, and then you have a nicely ongoing line for the facing of front and back. So put your back part onto the side seam of your front part on both sides and sew them together. And then try it on and see if all your princess seams, all your dart parts are good enough, or just change it if it's not to your taste. I tried mine on, and what I did is I pinned my mid front together so that this is connected. I put it around my body and then pinned the back parts together as if the zipper was already there. And then you have it just fitted to your body. And what I did, I have to take it in a little bit here at the darts of the princess seams here on the side, because it was opening up and I really don't like that. I think this must really be nicely fitted to your body. So when I had it on, I just folded it together and pinned it down here how much I needed to take it in. And then you can see where you take it off. I folded it in 2 times a centimeter, so that means that I have to take the seam in 1 centimeter, and then I have 2 times 1 centimeter because it's both the seams. So I did that on the other side because that was the same. I hope you can see it. This was my normal seam, my former seam, and I pinned it down 1 centimeter to the inside, that it is 1 centimeter plus 1 centimeter is 2 centimeters smaller. And then I made a curve to where the apex is, and that is here, so that you get a nice curve here to the apex. Don't make a straight line, because then you get a point here in the seam and it looks really strange. So make sure that you take your 2 centimeters or your 1 centimeter in double layer, going nicely in a curve to your old seam. And then you have your bodice nicely fitted the way it should be. And it is always you need to try it on because of this, because when you tried it with your paper pattern to see if this was enough dart room or princess seam room, a paper is always different than fabric, and also different fabrics are different. So when I have my basic pattern like this, I always try on if for the fabric that I'm working with now it is okay, because often you need to change it when it is a tighter fabric or a thinner fabric or a more flowy fabric. You always must try it on to see if you have to take it in a bit or take it out a bit, so that it's really nicely fitted to your curves, because that is the nice thing of making it yourself. You can really make it very well fitted, and not just about as when you buy something in the store. I don't like it, and especially here it's very annoying when this is standing open and everyone can see into your top. It's really not nice. So make sure you fit it well, and you try it on well, and then make it nicely fitted, and then you can go on to the next step, and that will be, where did I have it over here? That will be the facing part, or the double layer for the back. For the front, I just took a straight piece of fabric that I will just match here to my side, and then in the side seam, I cannot see without my glasses. I think now this is way too long, but make sure that where your side seam is of your bodice, that will be also the side seam for your facing from the front and the facing for the back. Sew them together, and then sew this along the top line of your armhole, connecting to the back of the bodice. I made the side seam of the facing for my armhole and the facing for the back. That's this one. And now I pin them on, and I'm gonna sew them on and then flip them to the inside, press it down, and then understitch on the facing part so that it will stay nicely underneath, otherwise it will just flip out every time. Our bodice, the front and the back nicely together. The facing's nicely pressed in, And when you have understitch here, it is very easy to press it down and get a nice sharp edge here on the side. So that is done. Then we're going to continue with the collar, because we have to attach it here on the top of our bodice. And what you do is you take the collar pieces and put them right sides together on top of each other, and then sew them all around, but not on the bottom of the collar. So just 3 edges, you sew them together, flip them out, clip off the corners and press them very nicely down. I press down the top of my collar, and if you like you can top stitch it. I won't, because for this thin fabric I don't really like it. So I put it on one part of my stand, and I put the other part of the stand on top of it. And then you're gonna pin that here from one end to the other end, leave the bottom down open, then flip that open again and press it nicely down so that your collar is in between the 2 stand parts. Your collar nicely pressed. Then we're going to put it onto our front pieces, and what you do is you put them right sides together on top of one first, so match up your mid fronts, and then pin the bottom of your stand to, oh, I want the other side, because then I have my facing to the front side. I like that more. Like that, match up the mid fronts, and then pin the stand to where your shoulder is of your front bodice, of your front part, and then you should go over to the back, but you don't have a back, so you just stop there. And then you go to the other side, you pin there too, and then you sew that on. And when you have done that, you can finish the back part, and that will be the in-between. So you sew it on like this. When you've done that, you can fold this in and sew it on by hand, and do the same for your back part by folding in both seam allowances here. And sew that by hand. You can also top stitch it down with your sewing machine, but I don't really like top stitching on it, so I will do this all just by hand, and then I think you have a really nice finish. So also do it on the other side, just flip it over, match up the mid fronts, and then pin this part too. So I folded in my seam allowances here, and also here in between, so the shoulder and the neck part, the back neck, and I pinned it down, and now I'm just gonna hand sew this down very nicely. And what I already did, and you probably already had, is I finished up here the sides of my facings, because of course this has to be nicely finished. So I did it with my serger. You can do it with a zigzag or just with a small rolled hem, so this is looking nice. So this is the inside, so it looks very nice like this. So we're gonna hand sew this, and then we're gonna go on to the next part. Then we're gonna continue with the bottom part, and we're gonna start with the pockets. And because I made my pockets in several pieces, I first gonna sew my flower parts for the insert onto the bottom part of my pocket. So I'm just gonna put a zigzag stitch here on the sides so that that is nicely secured. And when you don't have this, when you have just one pocket made out of your normal fabric, then what you do is you take your skirt part or your pants part if you're making pants, and you take the top part of your pocket and you lay that right sides together onto your insert of your pocket. So that is where your hand is going in, and you're gonna sew that on like this. Then you flip it over to the other side and then press that down, and if you like you can top stitch that, and then I'll go back to show you the next step. You sew that pocket insert, press it down, I top stitch it very small to the side. Then you're gonna flip your upper pocket up, and you're gonna match the side seams. And of course I have two parts, so I just pinned it down now to show you. You match here your side seams of your upper and your lower pocket and your side seam, and you match where your and to me it's not working because I have to sew them down first, the upper and the lower part, but you can now also match up here the top part of your pockets to the top part of your skirt, and then you have very nicely here your pocket insert. And this is now just one piece with the side seam going from your pocket insert going onto the side of your skirt part. So it's just now one line here, one line here on top to match up to your bodice. And the only thing that you have to do when you flip it over is you have to close up here the bottom of your pocket, and for me it is also here the side of the pocket. You see that I didn't match it up now right because I just pinned it on roughly, but you just so close that up the bottom of your pocket, and if you don't like me, also the side of your pocket. Now we have our pockets nicely in. We're gonna sew the side seams, so put the front pieces on top of your back pieces, and then sew both side seams, and make sure that you connect your pocket parts well. So I already pinned them down so that I'm sure that my pockets are attached to my front pieces, so that when I sew my side seams I have all the parts together, because here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of fabric. So make sure you take them all and you sew them nicely together. So now we have one big part for our skirt. What we're going to do is make the molding, and it is we're going to make the pleats in the back, left and right side, and of the not the pleats, the darts of course. And in the front we're gonna make the pleats, and you have some options, that's just whatever you like. What you can do is take one side of your pleat and fold it to the middle. You can also take the pin that you marked your pleat with and fold it to the side seam. What I will do is I will take both the pins together like with a dart, and then sew that from the inside around 3 centimeters, and then I will fold the overlap, I don't know what it's called, the pleat, to both sides. So half of it to the middle, half of it to the side seams, and I'll press it down. And when you do that, you get something like this. I hope you can see because I haven't sewn it obviously. But then you get something like this. It's more of a blind pleat that goes to both ways. And I think that looks nice with this skirt because the bodice is rather fitted. And then I don't really like it when there's a bump this way or a bump that way. And like this, it is just a hidden pleat that gives the width but not really the bulk. So I'm gonna do it like that, and I'll show you how to do this. The other pleats is of course very simple, just fold it in that way, and you can secure it here on top before you sew it on the bodice. Then you're sure that your pleats are the right size and nicely secured. When you make the pleat like I did, it looks like this. From the inside you see that I've ironed it down now, of course. The pleats go to both sides. And then from the right side you see something like this. And then it's depending on how much you want to iron it down. Here is the pleat. You see I ironed it down a little bit further than that I sewed it. I sewed it 3 centimeters. This is open, but I made it a little bit more a pleat going out, and then I stopped ironing it here so that it's flowy from here. And then you have a really nice pleat that is not too bulky, but it gives enough room here on the bottom of your skirt to make it nice and flowy. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna attach our bodice to our skirt part. Make sure you have pinned the overlap in the front, the mid front of your bodice, that we're gonna put buttons on later on. And now match all your seams together. So match your mid front. I just ironed it down and took my pin out, so I'm not sure where it is, so I have to measure it out. So match your mid front, your side seams, and then sew that down. Now we're gonna put in our invisible zipper, and because this must fit really snug, I'm just gonna pin it in and then try it on to see if it is tight enough, because otherwise your back part will be gaping. And what I didn't already attach my facing for my back part, so I'll just flip that up and then later on hand sew it to the zipper band, because then you get the nicest finish, I think. And I put my zipper in, but I also will attach on the top of the zipper what's it called, hook and eye, so that you have a secure closure, that there's not too much pressure on your zipper. So pin it in first and then try it on. If you're not familiar with invisible zippers, I have a sewing class about that. I will link it up here and down in the description box. There you can see how to do an invisible zipper, because you're not first gonna close up your seam that you're going to sew it in. First you put on your zipper and then you sew up the rest of your seam. Is nicely invisible in. What I did, I put some interfacing on the facing of my back, because I thought it was a bit too flimsy, because I made mine rather high and I really didn't like it. So I did put some interfacing in anyway. And now what you do is you hand sew this on to all the seams so that it's nicely secured. Put on your hook and eye here on top of your zipper. And then the only thing you have to do is hem your skirt, just a normal small hem or whatever hem you like. I will just make a normal small rolled hem by folding it in 1/2 centimeter, again 1/2 centimeter, and top stitch that down. And then the only thing you have to do is make some belt loops if you want to put a belt on, and I would just put 2 in the front here near the pocket inserts. That's most comfortable. 1 in the mid back just near the zipper, and 2 almost on the same place on the back as in the front. And then make some buttonholes and buttons here in the mid front. Put this away. Or some snaps or whatever you like. Just put them in so that you can close it up. And then your dress is finished. And here is the end result. It's a really funny dress with the open back. Normally I like to be more covered, but I think it's really nice when it's very hot outside. We have our pockets, as everyone always wants. I'm always wearing a handkerchief with me, but I don't really use my pockets a lot because often it takes away a bit of the falling of your dress. But in this case it's white, it's flowy, so it doesn't really matter. It looks really nice. I put some what's it called, snaps on instead of buttons, because I really got running out of time. So snaps are very easy to do, very quick to do. They are in much more better quality now than they used to be in the early days. Then they often just took off or pulled apart or got open, and now they are very good quality, and even the plastic ones are very easy to put in. You just use your metal clamp and you just push them in, and it's very quick to do. So I put some snaps on now. Don't forget to put your hook and eye on the back, because otherwise your zipper might open up, and that also makes sure that it's more secured on the back. It feels more secure, I think, when you have when you have a hook and eye on top of the zipper. So I think it's a really nice summery one. It looks, I think, really like the Zimmerman one that we were recreating, and I think it's a very nice one. I hope you managed to get the armholes nice. If you have problems, you can also try to pull it up a bit here underneath the collar. You don't see that, but sometimes it gives a little bit more closure around the armhole, because I think it's really important that that fits nicely. But I think it's a really nice dress, so I hope you liked it. Please subscribe if you haven't done already. If you have, thank you so much. And I'll see you again next time for another sewing class. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.